first thing you need to do is to try to understand the data set. So for you to understand the data set, that's the first thing. Because this also, when you try to understand the data set, the next thing you need to do, you have to think of how you can normalize the table, because this is a flat file, as I said earlier on, and it's a flat file because all the information are contained in just one single table. That is why it's a flat file, it's a denormalized table. So in order for you to be able to analyze this data properly and to extract the information or the report or to create a report from it, it's better you break the data set. In other words, you create other tables from these single tables. So first and foremost, you try to understand the data set. Now, what is this data set all about? As you can see, we have the product ID, we have the date, we have the customer ID. It has already started ringing the bell that probably this is about a product and customer table, because it is already giving us information about customer, the campaign, unit. We can see the product, we can see the category of the product, we can see the segment of the product. Now you can see it's giving us information about the product, it's giving us information about sales, because we already have a customer already there. So it's giving us an idea of the kind of report we can already create from that particular report. But also, the report you create from a particular data set, it depends also on the type of business that that data set is associated with, that data set is derived from. So you know the type of business they are doing, be able to know the type of data set, the type of report you will create from that particular data set. So as I keep on, you can see the unit cost, you can see the unit price, you can see the zip code, you can see the email name, you can see the city, you can see the state, you can see the region, you can see the district and the country. Now, all this now gives us information that tells us that this particular data set is about the sales of a product. So we give, and what are the major information? Now, I said for you to analyze this data set, you have to break it into smaller tables. In other words, you have to group some columns in this data set together that are related. You have to take a group of columns that are related together and form a particular table. That is what you are going to do for each and every one of them. So you are going to group different columns and form a particular table. That's how you start modeling your data set. So like this particular table now, what are the major information that this particular data set we can extract from this particular data set, or what are the major information that this particular data set gives to every viewer. Now when you look at it, it gives us the sales of it gives us one information about the sales of the product. It gives us information about the product. It also gives us information about the date where the goods were bought. It also gives us information about the location of the customer, because we have the zip code, we have the email name, we have the city, we have the email and the name, we have the city, we have the state, we have the region, and we have the district and country. So it's giving us information about the sales of the product, giving us information about the date, it's giving us information about the customer, giving us information about the product, and giving us information about the location of the customer. That's geography. So that's we from this particular table we can extract up to 5 tables from this particular table. Now, when breaking your tables, don't break those tables. Don't break these tables that information in each table you will not have much information in each table. Though the information in this particular table is large, we are trying to remove some information from this main table and create other tables, and take some columns and create other tables. But we are not going to do it in such a way that we have to have a large numbers of tables. No. But you have to do it in a way that you can have a sizable numbers of tables. So like 5 tables, deriving the 5 tables or extracting the 5 tables from this particular table is not that too much. So it's okay for this particular data set. So Now, you've understood the data set, you've seen the major information that this data set can give to you. The next step you are going to do, the next thing you're going to do is to now try to model your data set. How do we do that? Now, let me go to the insert menu here, and I'm going to click on the smart art. I'm going to click on the smart art and let me pick a particular model. Okay, let me pick this. Now, we already said this table is all about the sales table. Now, the sales table, that is this particular table is all about the sales. So that is our major table. So we call that the fact table. Is a fact table. So we can call it the fact sales table. So it's a fact table because it contains a major information about that data set. So we call this table the fact table. So we call it what? The fact table. Why the other tables we want to create out of this particular data set will be called the dimensional tables. Now, we call it dimensional tables because they are still part of the same table, but we are looking at the same table from different angle, from different direction. Mathematically, dimension simply means the length, the breadth, the height of a particular object. But when you go into engineering field and all those similar field, when you talk about dimension, dimension has to do with looking at the thing from a particular angle. So we are looking at the same table, but from different angle, from different direction. So that's why they are called the dimensional table. So the other tables we are going to create out of this main table, called the fact tables, will be called the dimensional table. So we talked about what? The due date. Uh, what are the other tables we say we are going to create? The dim customer. Now, this is how you start modeling your data set, how you start doing your analysis. Then the next one is the product. We say the dim product. Now, dim talks about the dimension. The last talks about dimension. So the dim product table, and the other one we can create is the dim geography table. Now, these are the 5 tables we want to extract from this particular data set. Now you can see these are the 5 tables we want to extract from this particular data set. Now, in excuse me, in each of those tables, what are the columns that we brought into each of these tables? Now, for instance, the customer table. For instance, like the customer table, we can bring in like a customer table. We can bring in like the customer ID. We can bring in the customer ID. Now you can see we have the customer ID. So we can bring in the customer ID. We have the customer ID. And we have the customer ID. That's the customer ID. So we can bring in the customer ID. We can bring in the email of the customer. We can bring in the customer ID. We can bring in the email of the customer. Then we can bring in the name of the customer. The email of the customer contains the name of the customer. Also, we can bring in the state. We can bring in the state. We can bring in the region. We can bring in district and country. But since we've already created another table called geography table, because we don't want to include much information in a particular table. We don't want a particular column. We don't want a particular table to have a lot of columns. That is the reason why we are trying to normalize this particular data set. So we've already created a geography table. So we are going to take the district, the region, the district, country into that particular table. So when you talk about the geography table now, we'll be talking about the district. We can include the zip code there. Can include the zip code. Can include the zip code. Now we can include can include the zip code, we can include the city, or let's say the state, the city, and also we can include the region, we can include the district and country. This is how you keep on modeling your data set. Then the product table, we can have the product ID. How it goes on and on. It goes on and on. Product ID. Now, this particular table, you can see. So I'm going to create separate. I'm going to remove some of this column and create separate tables. I'm going to pick each of these columns and use them to create separate table from the main table. So that's what I'm going to do. Though you can do that in Excel, which I've already done. You can do that in Excel, which I've already done. And now you can see here I have the fact sales table. In the fact sales table, I have the product ID, I have the date, I have the customer, I have the unit, I have the unit cost. In the dim customer table, I have the columns that I in the dim product table and dim geography. You can see I've separated these columns. I group them together to form different types of tables. Now, so you can see that, but doing this in Excel will be time consuming. Doing this in Excel will be doing this in Excel will be time consuming. Doing this in Excel will be time consuming, and also copying and paste. You might at the end of the day, um, while you are copying, trying to copy and paste, at the end of the day, you might run into some um, problem. Okay, hello, I'm with you. I thought someone is raising up his hand. Okay, so doing this in Excel, trying to copy and paste, at the end of the day, you might end up making a mistake. You might end up copying some data and leave out some data at the end of the day. So all this we are trying to do is what we call modeling, and that takes us to the concept of modeling. Now, in modeling in Power BI, there are a lot of modeling, but in Power BI, people looks at and make use of the star schema and the snowflake schema. The star schema is advisable to be used in data modeling in Power BI. So when you start analyzing your data to use Power BI, you use the star schema model in modeling your data in Power BI. And this is just an example of a star schema whereby all your tables are connected to one particular table in the middle, known as the fact table. Now, all these other surrounding tables are called dimensional tables. Why some people call it the parent and child table. The fact table is the parent table where you have the major information about your data set. Why all the surrounding tables are called the child tables. Why also these surrounding tables that are dimensional tables, whereby some people call it the child table, are also called the lookup tables. We are called lookup table because it gives you answer to the 5 W's of who, where, when, who bought the goods, where was the goods bought, when was the good bought, and it gives us the who, when, why, how, and gives us answers to all those about the goods. That's why it's something is called the lookup tables. Because when you get an information in the fact table to look up the more information about this particular data set, you go to the lookup tables. So we have the star schema. This is an example of the star schema. So when modeling your data in Power BI, it's advisable to use the star schema. We have a lot of modeling system. I look at Microsoft 360, it makes use of another type of modeling system. You look at project management, it has its own modeling system. You look at the other type of program, they have their modeling system. But when you come to Power BI, you want to analyze your data using Power BI, it's advisable you make use of the star schema. And the star schema is that where all your surrounding tables, that is the dimensional tables, all your surrounding tables are connected to one particular table in the middle known as the fact table. So that's why it's called a star schema. It's like a star. You can see the dimensional tables here connected to the fact tables. That is just like a star. So that is why it's called the star schema. So now, creating relationship among your tables. Now, why you are creating relationship among these data sets? Why you are creating relationship among those data sets? Now, why you are creating relationship among your tables? Uh, you must while creating it, you must create it in such a way that you can able to connect the data sets together. That you should be created in such a way you can link your surrounding tables to the fact tables. Now, what do I mean by that? While I'm creating these surrounding tables, I must leave a column. I must leave a column in this fact cells table that I can use to connect to this particular table with a column in this particular table in order to connect these two tables together. Also, in my product table, in my team product table, in my team product table, in my team product table, I must leave a particular column in this particular team product table that I can use that particular column to connect to the fact sales table. Also, in my customer table, I will take a column, leave a column in the fact sales table that I can use that particular column to connect with my customer table. In other words, there should be an identical column in the table and in the fact sale table. But if your data modeling is such a way that you don't want to leave a column in the main table, which is the fact table, and connect it with your surrounding table, you can create a surrogate key. Now you can create what we call a surrogate key. And how do we do that? You can just creating an index, can create an index in that. So you create that index. You use the index to connect each of the data sets. You use the index to connect each of your data sets. You use the index to connect each of the data sets. Now, like this particular table now that you can see I have the different tables here with the columns that have been separated. So what I will do in each column, I will create an index key. That is, if you don't have a column, that can be used in connecting your tables together. You don't have a column, you can create a surrogate key 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can create a surrogate key in each of your data sets. You can create a surrogate key in your data set so you can use it to connect that to the fact tables, to the fact table. You can use it to connect to the fact table. So you can create that surrogate key so you can use it to connect to your fact table. So in a situation whereby you don't have anything to use to connect to your table, you create a surrogate key that you can use to connect to your fact table. Okay, now, so this is the star schema. I told you that we have a lot of schema, but let's look at the star schema. I've already explained about the star schema. We have also what we call the snowflake schema. Now, you can see the snowflake schema is similar to the star schema. You can see my dimensional tables are connected to my fact tables. All these other tables are that surrounds the fact tables are connected to the fact table. But you can see this particular date table is not connected to the table in the center, in the middle. Now, this is what we call snowflakes. Though you can have this type of data set, you can model your data set in this manner, it doesn't really matter. But when you start having much snowflakes, you have another one that is connected to this, and connected to the main table. You will start having problem when you start running DAX. Or you have a snowflakes disconnected, you have another one connected, have another one connected, have another one connected. You keep having such kind of snowflakes. While running DAX query, on your model, you run into some problems while running that query. So it's advisable you make use of this task schema while modeling your data set in Power BI. So now, after you're modeling your data set in Power BI, now you can see we've identified the major information that we can get from our fact table. Now, that information where we can get is like sales, customer, product, reseller, dates. Now, this tells us that the type of modeling system we are dealing with is conceptual modeling system. That takes us to dimensional modeling. So dimensional modeling is what we use in Power BI. So when it comes to Power BI, you make use of the dimensional model. Now, remember I told you the dimensional model is a type of modeling system whereby you have the fact table surrounded by the dimensional tables. All the other surrounded tables are connected to your fact tables. That is what we call dimensional modeling. So in Power BI, you make use of the dimensional modeling system in Power BI. So in dimensional modeling system, we start talking about the conceptual, start talking about the concept. What are the concepts we have? We have to create a sales table, we have to create a date table, we have to create a product table, we have to create a customer table, we have to create a geography table. So you are talking about the conceptual modeling system. Then after that, you start measuring the columns. So now you start, we have the sales table. Under the sales table, we talk about the product, the transaction ID, or the customer ID. You talked about the product, you talked about the sales amount, and so on. Now, when you finish talking about each of these columns, you start talking about the data type of each of these products. So this is a conceptual modeling system, a dimensional model. Yeah, it's also a conceptual modeling system. You start talking about the character type, how many characters it will take. But you don't need to do all this in Power BI because Power BI, all this will be done by Power BI. All you need to do is to create your table. Power BI will do all this will be done by Power BI. Power BI will carry out all these tasks. Now, the dimensional model, this dimensional model, why the importance of this dimensional model, it helps you organize your data set for easy retrieval for reporting purposes. Now, it helps you to organize your data set very, very well. And the dimensional modeling system, which I've told you, you have the facts table and you have the dimensional tables. So we have the factor, we have the dimensional, we now have the attributes. The attributes are each column that are the columns that make up the particular word tables. Now we've talked about relationship. When you are done creating each of these tables, each of your dimensional tables, and you connect it to the fact table, you can use different type of relationship. You can use one-to-many relationship. One-to-many relationship means that there is only that there is only one data set, one information in this particular sales table, but there are duplicates of that information in this particular fact sales table. In other words, in a fact table, you might have a customer that buys a product today, and the customer comes in tomorrow and comes in next week to buy another product, another set of product, or the same product. You can see the record of the customer. We have duplicate records of the customer. That can will appear in the facts table. But in the sales table, you now have that information because each customer have an ID. So you give that customer a particular number to identify that customer. So once that information appears once in this sales table, that you can see that the relationship will now be many to one relationship because we have the customer appearing more than once in a fact table, while in a sales table it appears only once. So we can have many to one relationship. We can have many to one relationship. We can have one to one relationship. One to one relationship means that you have only one record about the customer in the customer table, and you have only one record about the customer in the fact cells in the fact table. So the customer information appears only once in the customer table, and also likewise appear once in the fact table. So that's what it's called. That's a one-to-one relationship. Also, we have many-to-many relationship. Many-to-many relationship means that you have duplicate information about the customer in the customer table, and you have duplicate information about the customer in the fact table. So we can have different types, all these types of relationship among our tables. Now, remember I said if you don't have a particular column to connect your data set together, you create a surrogate key. A surrogate key is a unique identifier. It identifies each rows of your data set. Also, when you can see this, now you can see these examples of star schema. All those tables here, known as the dimensional tables, are connected to only one table known as the fact table. All the tables here are connected only to one table known as the fact table. But in this particular case, you can see is we have a snowflakes. All this table, and this table are connected only to one table known as the fact table. But we have a snowflakes here. There is no problem because the snowflakes only occurs once. But you can see this particular case. This table is connected to this. This is connected to this. This is connected to this. Building your modeling like in this manner in Power BI, you will run into a lot of error, into a lot of problems. Even while trying to build visualization with your data set, much more running a dark code into a dark query in your model, in your data set. So this type of modeling, that type of modeling system is not what advising. Now, all this modeling system can be done in Power BI. How can we do this in Power BI? So let us bring up a Power BI screen and see how we can do all this type of modeling in Power BI. Now, this is my Power BI screen. This is my Power BI screen. So the first step is to get your data into Power BI. So I'm going to load the flat file. I'll click on Get Data. Since my data is an Excel file, I'm going to select Excel as the source of data. So I'm going to click on Excel. Then I'm going to locate my data in my computer, where it's located in my computer. I'm going to double click on that. Then that will take me to the Power Query window. So now this brings me up to this window. I'm going to select this particular data set I want to load. Now at the right hand side, you see a display of the data set. Now I'm going to go to transform data. Please, I hope you can see my Power Query screen. I hope you can see my query editor. Hello, can you see my?
I can't see your projection.
Okay.
Anything at all.
Oh.
I've even tried logging out several times to see if it's network, but I'm still not seeing it. I'm seeing it from here.
Okay, you're seeing it from there, from your angle. Okay.
Yes, I'm seeing it there. Yes, I'm also seeing it there.
Okay, okay. So I think maybe it will be from your own angle. So try to log out and log in again. Okay.
Let me log out and log in again.
Okay. So now this is my query editor. Now we've already talked about the table we are going to create, and we want to create 4 additional tables. So what we are going to do, we've already looked at how we can work, cleanse our data using your data modeling. But first and foremost, now we've loaded the data set. Let's check our data type. You can see we have the product ID. The data type here is number. We click on this. We have the date. The data type is date and time, which is in order. Let's go to the customer ID. Click the customer ID. The data type here is a whole number. Let's go to the campaign ID. Data type is whole number, which is still which is okay. The unit, the data type is whole number, which is okay. So you have to check your data type, because if a wrong data type is used by the Power Query, while creating visualization, you also run into problem while creating visualization. Though you have the opportunity to change that in Power BI. So when you go to the product table, you can see the data type is text, because you have a mixture of um, character and number. So is a both character and number data type. So the text is okay. This is a text data type segment. And now you go to the manufacturing, you'll see the data type. You ensure that all your data types are in order. You can see this is a decimal number. You want to round up that, you round it up. You want to round down, you round down. I've showed us how to do that. Then you go to your zip code and you check the email, which we are going to work on. And we have the city, we have the state, we have the region, we have the district. Now you can see the Power Query actually detected the data type correctly. So now we can go ahead to duplicate this data set. Go ahead to duplicate this data set. So we are going to create 4 additional tables from this particular data set. Fine. We'll create 4 additional tables from this data set. So now we start naming this table. The first one we said is the word fact sales. The next one we call it dim date. The next we call it the product table. That the dim product. Enter. Then the next one we call it dim customer and dim geographic table. So the dim customer. The next is the dim geography table. Okay. Now, so what we are going to do, we start creating columns. Let's start from the product table. Now, from the product table, we are only interested in keeping some columns. So we go to choose column, and we are going to uncheck this checkbox beside it. We only need the product ID. We need the unit. We need the product. We're only going to select the columns that are related to products. The category, we need the segment. You can also pick manufacturer because it's connected to product, manufacturer ID, customer. Let's leave the unit cost, unit price, and I think that's okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that is okay for the product table. And so once we are done with that, we click OK. So that is a product table. Now, when we click OK, now remember we duplicated this table from the fact table. So we have duplicates. You can see we already have duplicates here. So this particular table is where a primary key will be located in. That's a unique key, a unique identifier. That's the key, the column we want to use to connect to this fact table. We'll be using this product ID to connect to this fact table. So what we are going to do, we have duplicates. So you press down the shift key of your computer and click on this. Then when you click on this, we are going to remove duplicate. Now you come to this point and click on remove duplicates. To remove duplicates, so you will only have just single product ID on that table. We have just have all duplicate values will be removed from this table. So we'll be able to connect it to the fact table. We have that connection to the fact table. So Power BI is the query editor is removing all duplicates on that particular table. Now you can see all the duplicates has been removed. Now in the customer tables, I'm going to do likewise in the customer table. I'm going to choose the tables that are needed. That's the customer ID, and I can also choose the campaign ID, or I could just leave that campaign ID in the fact sales table. So I pick the customer ID, and also I need the email and names of the customer. Now remember, I could take the zip code, I could take the city, I could take the state, I could take the region, district, and country. But we've already created a column known as geography table. So we already created a table known as geography table. So all this column, I'm going to push them into the geography table. I'm just going to push all this column. I'm going to push all this column into the geography table. So I think the customer ID is okay here, and the email and name is okay here. Let's click OK. Then when you click OK, now let's start working on this. We can see the email and the name are joined together. So the first thing is to let's click on this. Let's right click and we go to split column by delimiter. Now as we can see from our table, we can see the email is separated from the last name and first name with a column. So we are going to click on this and then click on the column. We are going to look for a column. Sorry, that is a comma. We're going to look for a column. So fine, and I want to use the by delimiter. Let's use this and click on OK. So that splits the column into two. Now you can see I have the last name and first name together. So click on this and go to split column by delimiter. Okay, split column by delimiter. Or we can also use extract. I think I taught you about extract. Where is that extract? We can extract text before delimiter. Okay, we can also use that. Now we can extract text before delimiter. Now, what is the delimiter? Enter the delimiter that marks the end of what you would like to extract. So let's say it's a comma. That's the comma. I click OK. Now you can see that gives me that only the last name that appears the extract text by delimiter, because I said text before delimiter. So it only extracted that. But in this particular case, I want to split the column into two instead of extracting that particular column. I want to split it into two. So I'm going to use that particular, because the other one didn't give me exactly what I wanted. It only extracts that text. So what I wanted is I wanted to split the column into two. So I make use of that option, split by delimiter, and click on OK. So that splits that into two. So I can call this the first name and hit enter. And hit enter. Like this, I can call it the last name and hit enter. Okay, now let me work on this. I'm going to replace this value here. So what do I want to replace? I want to replace the open comma. I have the open comma here. I want to replace it with what? With nothing. So I also still want to replace the other close bracket. The close bracket, I want to replace it with nothing. So that removes that. So I can double click on this to edit that and call it email. So now we click on this, press on the shift key of your keyboard and click on this, and let's remove duplicates. Or we can right click on this to remove duplicates. So that removes duplicate from that particular data set. Now let's go to the geography column. Now in the geography column, we're going to select the columns that are needed in the geography column. We are going to uncheck this. The column that are needed in the geography column are the zip code, the city, the state, the region, the district, and the country. So these are the columns that are needed. We can click on OK. Now we've clicked on OK. Now what we are going to do, we press on the shift key of our keyboard and we click on this and we either right click or we go to remove duplicate. So that removes duplicate value in that particular data set. Now, remember we have what we've done those three. We come to our dim table. Now, I left this for a purpose. Now, when we come to our dim date table, now when we come to our dim date table, when you uncheck this in our dim date table, sorry, what did we do? Oh no, we've made an error. This dim date table, what we did here was customer table. What we did in this dim date table, dim date table, okay, fine. In our dim date table, we are only going to choose the column that are related to the date. Now, this is a column relating to the date. Now, if you I only have one column relating to the date, so I'm not cool with this. I'm not okay with this. So I can import another table. So I have an external table, an external date table. I can import that external date table and I make use of it. Since this is just only one column, I'm not so cool with just only this column. I want a table that has additional column, a date table that has additional column. So I'm going to import another date table, another table into my data set that is a date table. So I'll just now you can see this particular table now that I imported. You can see this particular table is okay. I imported an external table. Fine, you can also use import an external. You can say I have date, I have the day of the week, I have the month, I have the month number, I have the month number, I have the number, quarter month number, I have the quarter, first quarter, second quarter, I have the week number, I have the year. So I want to use this date. So this particular table, either I delete it off, I can delete it off because I don't really want to use it. Because I don't want to use it, so I can simply delete this particular date table off because I don't really need that particular date table. So I have deleted that off. So now I have all this table in my data set. I could simply rename this to my dim date table. Now I have a fact sales table. Now this is a fact sales table. Now this is my main table. So we are going to choose the column that we're going to choose column. Now recall that this dim date table, since I brought an external table into my dim date table, I don't need to remove duplicates because it's already in order. You can see this is 1st of January, this is 2nd of January, 3rd of January, 4th of January. There is no duplicates. It's just an external table. So it's not derived from the fact table. And even it was the other table that was derived from the fact table, we would have removed duplicate from that particular table I deleted had it been I wanted to use that particular table. But since I'm getting an external table and this external table does not contain duplicates, that is the reason why I didn't remove duplicates from this particular table. So now let's go to our facts table now. The major table now we are going to choose the columns that will be left there. Now, this product table, we are going to leave it there because we want to connect it with the product ID in the product table. Now, this date table, I'm going to pick this date table because I will connect it with the date table in this date, in the date. I'm going to connect it with the date column in the date table. Now, the customer ID, I'm going to leave it there because I want to connect it with the customer ID in the customer table. I want to use it to create relationship between the two tables. Now, campaign ID, I'll leave that in the sales table. Now unit cost, unit price, now unit, I might leave this unit because it's already in the product table. But the products category segment, I'm going to leave that is they are already in the product table. Now, manufacturer ID, I can pick this. I can pick this because they are not in the product table. Now, the unit cost and unit price, and then now, since these are already in my product table, but in my product table, I've already removed duplicate value. Um, Now, if this unit cost is a total sales, if this unit cost is if this unit cost is your total cost, if the unit cost is your total cost, you will leave it in the sales table, and it will not appear in the product table. Because recall in the product table, we remove duplicate values. Some of the data sets were removed, some of the data were removed. So assuming this is your total cost, you will have left it in the fact sales table, and and it will not appear in the product table. So let me leave the unit cost, let me use the unit price. Because while creating visualization, I'm going to assume that is my total cost and is my total sales. So I want to use that. If not, I would have just left them out. So let's leave the unit cost, let's leave the unit price here and click on OK. Now I'm done with all this. If once you're done with all this, the next thing you need to do is to now go to close and apply. When you click on close and apply, it brings you into your Power BI window. I'm going to go to my screen now. I'm going to load my screen in a minute. It's still loading. I can detect. I can't see the screen for now. Um, it's loading the data set into the Power BI. I can't look. I can't see my screen for now. Once the screen comes up, I'm going to put up the screen so you can see what is going on. Once the screen comes up, I'm going to put up the screen so you can see what is going on. I can't detect the screen for now. Okay, now screen is up. Now you can see on the right hand side there, we can see my tables, my dim customer table, my dim date table, my dim geography table, my dim product table, and my dim fact table. So I forgot to rename this table in the query editor. I can rename this table here. So I'm already done with my modeling. Let me just make use of the main name. I was using the dim so that you can understand better. So let me rename it. Since I'm done with the modeling, so I don't need to put all those those facts. I was just trying to make you to understand what I was doing. So it's not we don't have to leave that there. So let's use a geographic table. Um, you right click when you right click, there are a lot of things you can do here. I only want to rename. So I leave that to my sales table. Then my geography table, and okay, fine. Now on the right hand side there on that data panel, you can see on the data panel, you can see my various table. The moment I click on any of this to expand that particular data set, But when I click on it, you can see it expands, it shows the column that are in each of those tables. Now, for instance, in this particular table, your customer table, I have my customer ID in that table. I have my email in that table. I have the first name and last name because I can click here to also collapse it. When I click on this, it expands my date table, and I can see the various column in the date table. I can see the various column in my date table. So if you can do that for the rest table. Now on this side, that's the report view. This way I'm going to create my dashboard. I'm going to start creating my visualization on this particular place. This is called the canvas. So this is where you can also adjust the canvas here. This is where you do the canvas setting. So let's leave the canvas the way it is. Here is the table view. This is where you can view your data set. Want to view your data set, you can view your data set on that table view. When you click on each of this table, you can view your data set. That will show you the view of your data set. Now, when you go to modeling, now this is the what we've been doing all along. Now, once you finish creating all your tables, Power BI is going to detect relationship among your tables and create that relationship. But the Power BI doesn't create the relationship. You can create the relationship manually. So we're going to see what Power BI has done. Now you can see that Power BI created this relationship among this data set. We can see that Power BI created that relationship among the data set there. So these two tables are already connected, but Power BI detected the relationship. You can see it connects the product table, product ID using the product ID here. So now the date table, I can simply create the connection manually with the date table. Ensure that you drag and drop on the date table. If I drag and drop on, let's assume I drag and drop on customer ID, Power BI is going to create a connection between the two tables, and you can see that that is wrong connection. So you can see it's the manufacturing ID and the date table. So that is a wrong relationship between the two tables. So what am I going to do? I'm going to drag and ensure that while I'm dropping, I drop it on the date table. So I drag and drop on the date table. Now the other is the geography table. Now the geography table in the customer table here, I want to connect it with. Okay, now you can see my geography table now in the customer table. I have the zip code here. I should have left the zip code here. You can see I don't have a column I can use to connect my customer table. I need a column here that would have used to connect these two tables here. I should have left the zip code in this sales table. That's what I should have done. I should have left the zip code in the sales table to be able to connect these two tables together. So that will take me back to my Power Query editor. Let me see how I can create what I can use to connect those two tables. So I told you earlier on, you have nothing to connect your data set together, just like I have nothing here. I can create a surrogate key. So I'm going to create a surrogate key here. I go to the transform menu and I add column because I want to add a column to that and create a surrogate key there. That will be called the geography key. Let me call that geography key. That's the geography key. Okay, and hit enter. That's the surrogate key there. So now I'm going to connect this with the sales table. So I'll go to the sales table, I click on the sales table, ensure that the sales table is on. Then go to the home menu. Go to the mesh query. Go to home menu, go to mesh query and pick your geography table. Now Okay, let me see. I want to bring this geography table into this, and I need something to connect these two tables together. Now I have nothing to still connect these two tables together. Okay, let me see what I'm going to do. I need to think fast, think fast, think fast. So we are going to see how we can connect the tables together. Okay, let me think of what I'm going to do. I want to include this column. I want to join these two tables together. So I've created a surrogate key there. I have to also create that key in that particular table there. So I have the city here, I have the state, I have the region. I don't have the city, I don't have the state, I don't have the region yet. Okay, let me see. Mm, We have this just about the geography, and we have the zip code in the geography table. Okay, so now I want to connect. I want.
Sorry, I don't know whether it was only from my end that the meeting ended.
No, it was in all every end. It ended. Everyone.
Hello?
Yeah, everyone went out.
Yeah,
It
it's
logged.
General. Class
It,
is on.
yeah, the class is on. It logged.
General, just try to call me back.
Yeah, the class is on.
Okay.
Okay, let me drop a message on the WhatsApp group there. Let me just drop a message there on the WhatsApp. Just give me a minute, please. Okay. So I want to connect the two tables there. I need a column that I can use to connect the two together. When I go to my sales table, I should have left this here. Okay, let me cancel my last action here. Let me cancel my last action and let me choose.
Well, sorry, I don't know whether now that people are trying to come back. Somebody ask question.
Okay, you can ask questions.
Can somebody ask questions?
Yeah, you can, please. Yes, you can, please do.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm with